Alright, this is going to be the last video that covers any modeling for the miniature train project. The linkage arm you should be able to handle. It's a single sketch, single extrusion. The linkage peg is going to be done exactly like the hitch peg in a prior video, so you should be good on those. But this cow catcher is probably going to be the most challenging part of all the parts in the miniature train, simply because you're going to be learning a few different commands with the creation of the cow catcher. We're going to talk about lofting, we're going to talk about a shell, offset command, a couple other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with basically the bottom of this part. I'm going to draw this kind of five-sided polygon here first. So this width is 1.8. All right. The overall height, so from the bottom edge to this point, is 1 inch. From the left side to the point is 0.9. And then I believe these flats on all of the sides here are 1/4 inch. So when I come into Inventor and I create my sketch, I am going to attempt to create this sketch keeping the orientation in mind. So I'm going to do this a little bit different than normal. I'm going to kind of sketch by dimensioning as I go, but then also simultaneously kind of not dimensioning as I go. So I'm going to come in here, create this. This should be 1 inch, I believe. Notice that got all screwed up. Not too concerned about it. I'm just going to kind of, make it move. I'm going to try to do an equal constraint on that length to that one and see if it lets me. It does. And apply that. So the reason I did it this way is now I want to come back and make a coincident constraint of that midpoint to the midpoint of to my origin, because I want this to be rather centered in my XY plane. So I'm going to finish that sketch, okay, and this is where it's going to start to get a little bit more challenging. Is in my browser, I need to turn on the visibility for that plane that I just created. And we've already talked about work planes in the train body, but now I need to build another work plane above this plane and parallel to it so that I can create basically the same sketch that I just did, except with the measurements for the top. So the top is 0.75 inches tall, 1.2 across the back, still 1/4 inch on the sides, and that height, overall height, is 0.75. So in Inventor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my plane tool. I'm going to click and hold on this plane, dragging up, and then specifying 0.75 inches, which was the height of this part. So I'm going to create this sketch on here, and again, I'm going to kind of draw off in space over here and dimension as I'm drawing. It was 1.2, 0.25, and then links all back up. And I'm going to do it essentially the exact same way I did the first one, saying that those need to be equal, saying that this height needs to be 0.75, that this overall width is going to be the 0.6. And the reason I'm doing that is because, again, this origin point, all right, is where I need to lock the midpoint to. These two sketches, although they're on different planes, have to be perfectly aligned with one another for this to work and create the geometry the way that I need it. So using that coincident constraint and making sure that we're locking to, the center point the origin or whatever plane that happens to be, which I believe is the YZ plane and the XY plane, where they meet, using that point, using that origin as a reference, is the only way we're going to be able to do this. So I'm going to finish my sketch. These work planes, I'm going to turn the visibility back off of, so it's a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. But you can see that those sketches are on two different levels. Okay, and what I do here is I'm now choosing my Loft command, and what the Loft does is it takes geometry, and when I click those two pieces of geometry, it makes it a solid in between them, and it follows whatever path it needs to follow in order to do that. So really creating the sketches is the difficult part of that, of doing what we've done so far. The Loft is simply click the two options. Okay. The next command I'm going to show you is the shell command. What the shell command does is, if you notice, this part is hollow on the inside, and this provides us a little section view, and it tells us that it's hollow to a thickness of 0.10. So what I'm doing here with the shell command is I'm going to say shell, and it's a modify command, and I'm simply going to click on the bottom of the part, and that lets me know that that's where the shell is entering my part, and it's simply leaving this thickness all the way around the part. So you can see now that that part is hollow. Okay, and then that's a new command as well. So we've done Loft, we've done shell. The other command that I'll show you is if I come here and create a sketch on this front face, I am going to project geometry. I want to see this edge. Okay, offset allows me to take an existing set of geometry and make it larger or smaller, but keeping the same, angles and thicknesses and sizes. And then I can simply specify the thickness or the offset that I want it to be. And I'm kind of doing that from memory. But if you look right here, 0.10, so this gets offsetted 0.10, then it's going to get extrude cut to leave 0.05. So come in here, I'm going to say extrude. Alright, maybe look at it from a different angle here. Extrude cut 0.05, and we got that. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Project geometry, offset the geometry, dimension it to be 0.1, extrude cut 0.05, and that creates that. That last part, I might have been able to open up my YZ plane, which cuts directly through the part, and mirror this feature to the other side. It might have worked, but you saw how quickly I could just create a sketch, project geometry, offset it, and just extrude cut it. So I kind of did that on my own, just because, again, I feel like it's just as quick sometimes to create the sketch and do the geometry. To finish this part, we just need to add our 3 pegs off the back. So it's just going to be 3 circles, fully constrained, linked to where they need to be linked, and extruded out the distance they need to be extruded out. I'm going to leave that up to you. That shouldn't be something we have to show, but our next video is going to actually take all the parts we've created and start putting them together. So thanks.